Okay, let's go. So we are continuing in Perek Tezayin. We're on page Chav Beis. So we asked ourselves a question in yesterday's class. We are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines from the bottom of the page. That we had a statement from the rabbis that says, "Amachshava toiva HaKadosh Baruch Hu mitzarfa l'maisa," that a good thought, Hashem connects it to the action. Okay? So we said that is a very unusual language for the Pashut Pshat, the simple meaning of that verse. Because the simple meaning, when you ask someone, what is this verse coming to tell you? So let's say that it comes to mean that if, let's say that I have a plan to do something good, and for whatever reason, all of a sudden, something happens that it doesn't enable me to do that thing. So what we say is, okay, Hashem makes it as though you did it. Right, I had a plan to go and help out someone, to go help them out with whatever they were busy with. And all of a sudden there was a huge traffic jam. And because of that huge traffic jam, I wasn't able to get to his house. Okay, but look at me. I had the plan. I got in the car. I was driving. And something beyond me was, stopped me from doing what I wanted to do. Hashem considers it as though I did it. Right, that's it. But if you look at the language doesn't seem to indicate that that's what it's really talking about. Because what does it mean? A machshava toiva, a good thought, Hashem mitzarfa, connects it to the action. There was no action here. In other words, there's something missing here. The machshava toiva, the good thought, is there. But the action is not there. And that's what he says. Habalei l'meimer, it should have said, Maila alav hakasuv keilu asa. That it's as though it should have been saying like this: a machshava taiva, a good thought, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem, Maila alav keilu, right? Asa. It's as though he did it. Okay, he wanted to go to this person's house to help him out. He got into this car. He started driving, and there was a huge traffic jam, and he never made it there. So Hashem says, wow, that's amazing. You went out of your way for someone else. You got in your car, you wanted to help him, and lo and behold, there was a traffic jam. Okay, so you know what? We are going to count this as though you did it. So that should have said, Ki'ilu asa, as though he did it. Not the words mitzarfa l'maisa, that it's connecting it to what he did. So let's understand a deeper meaning in what the rabbis are trying to teach us here. So the concept is as follows. Ki dechilu v'rechimu shebihizgalus libo heim mislabshim b'maise ha-mitzvos lahachiyoisam leparcha le'ela. So he says like this. Up until now, what we've been saying is that when a person learns Chassidus and they think about God and they meditate and they really, really understand, like we described like about 3 classes ago in detail, all the details that he can, it's going to make an impression upon him. And then that is going to cause him to want to do the mitzvah. What's going to happen? He's going to get very excited about it, right? And he's going to want to do the mitzvah. He's going to want to learn the Torah. He's going to want to do whatever he has. It's like he's really putting himself into it, right? That's the way it is, yeah? So up until this point, that's all we've talked about. Now we're adding a new point to this whole discussion. What we're saying now is not only is that a catalyst for him to do whatever mitzvah that we're talking about or to learn whatever Torah that we're discussing. In addition, it's as though the mitzvah itself was like a balloon. And the energy that you are putting into it with your excitement gets invested into that mitzvah, like helium in a balloon, and it causes the mitzvah to fly up to the upper worlds. That's what we're going to discuss in a minute, right? So that is a second point to this whole story of learn Chassidus, meditate on the Chassidus, get aroused, do the mitzvah, and also invest the gasoline into the mitzvah to make it to fly. Okay? So that's a new thing. Why? Ki alev hu gamkin chumri kishare varim. Now this is interesting what he's saying here. He's saying because the heart is also a physical, a material entity, just like the other Avarim. What is he referring to? What he's referring to is as follows. We're trying to invest this energy into a mitzvah. A mitzvah, most mitzvahs are done with physical things, physical objects, okay? We need something that is a intermediary between the spiritual and the physical. Similar to what Hasidus talks about in terms of how does the soul wind up going into the body. The soul is totally spiritual, the body is totally physical, so there has to be some sort of bridge, or some sort of connector that is going to enable the spiritual to catch on to the physical, right? And to stay there. Okay? So what Hasidus explains is that is actually the blood. The blood of a person is, on the one hand, it's very physical, but there is a certain spiritual aspect to the blood that is a little bit more refined, or a little bit more, can we say, we'll call it spiritual, for lack of a better way of describing it, than a physical coarse limb. Okay, so it's something. It's like an intermediary. On the one hand, obviously, it's not a spiritual thing. It's not something that's that we can't see. We could see it, but there is some element of it that makes it a little bit more ethereal than the actual, let's say, the lungs or something like that, right? Or the stomach or whatever it is we're talking about. Similarly, in the Avarim, in the limbs of the body, the heart has an impact on the rest of the body. When a person feels something in his heart, it impacts him much more than the brain. The brain is objective, and the brain remains, so to speak, aloof from the body. So when he understands something, very often, it doesn't necessarily impact him as much. When he feels something, now he becomes very impacted, right? That he really feels. Right, that's why we talk about there's actually in the world, in the secular world, even there's like, right, the heart waves, and they follow it whether it's in sync or out of sync and things like that they discuss these types of ideas because it influences the rest of the being, right? So in the same way, because of these emotions that I've developed when I went from my brain into my heart, and now I have a full-fledged emotion, that is going to be able to act as rocket fuel for the particular mitzvah, whatever mitzvah it is that I am doing. Okay, that's what he's saying here. Okay, so then he says like this, Ki alev hu gam ken chumri k'sharei varim shehem kli ha'maisa. Right, that they are the vessels for the action. Ela shehu pnimi. But on the other hand, the heart is much more, it's internal. It's much more spiritual. Right, v'chayus lahem, and it's actually the energy that goes into the other limbs of the body. V'lachein, therefore, yochol lehislabesh, it's able to become enclosed bahem, in them. Lios lahem gadfim la'aloisam. So therefore, what happens is that because the heart has this special characteristic, not only does it impact the other limbs of the body, right, that a person is able to, by the way his heart is feeling, he's going to impact his whole being. Similarly, he is able to, his heart, the energy that he has in his heart, is going to become enclosed within the actual mitzvah that he is doing. So generally speaking, when he has this amazing emotional energy, so therefore it's very impactful. But what we've been talking about the entire time, throughout the entire parak, throughout the entire chapter, has been this mind emotion, which is really not being felt. It's more of a decision that this is a good thing for me. It would be in my best interest to follow through on this. So it's not that I'm feeling it in my heart. I'm sort of feeling it in my mind, but it's not a full-blown emotion. So, however, the fear and the love that is in this emotional brain and this hidden aspects of the heart, so because the brain is really on a level that's much, much higher than the other limbs of the body that are investing into the action of whatever the mitzvah is, it's hard to say that it would become necessarily enclosed within the actual mitzvah. Or if it does become enclosed, it will be enclosed not in a way of a rocket fuel that could really lift it off, but in a very limited way, because you have a very limited amount of energy. For example, everyone knows that when they're feeling like an excitement and they're like really happy, really excited about to doing something, whatever they're going to do, they're going to be like alive with. On the other hand, when it's in their mind, yeah, this is a good thing to do. Okay, let's do it. Yeah, okay. He doesn't have the same enthusiasm, the same, excitement that he had, that in the first individual had. So therefore, so therefore, it's impossible for it to become enclosed in the actual doing the mitzvahs. To be the brain v'chayus and the energy to cause it to go up, to fly up above. Okay. However, when Hashem, however, is going to see that the person is putting all of his effort into this, and he is meditating, and he's trying his best to arouse this energy, right? It's just that he is not, necessarily made in such a way that he is going to have this huge emotion, okay? Then Hashem turns around and he connects it. He is the one that is going to join that energy from the brain to the mitzvah itself. That is the machshava tova, ki einan dichilu v'rechim mamish, because really it's not a full-fledged emotion. It's not a real fear. It's not a real love. Right? His galus libo, in the open recesses of his heart. Ki im betvunas meicha v'talumas libo kanal. It's just in the hidden aspect of the brain and the hidden aspects of the heart. Ach tziruf zeh. But this connection, this joining together, mitzaref HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Hashem joins together, kidei, in order lahalois ma'aseh ha-mitzvah, in order to elevate the act of the mitzvah, the esek ha-Torah, and the involvement in Torah, hanase al yedei machshava tova hanal, that he did through this good thought. Ad olam habriya, malkom aliyas ha-Torah v'mitzvos hanaisim al yedei dechilu v'rechim u'sichli. So what is he saying here? What is the highest thing that a person can do? What he's saying here is that a person, let's say a tzaddik, right? He is thinking and meditating in his brain, and he's causing this love and this fear to come out in this incredible way. That's called dechilu v'rechimu sichlim. Not that they're intellectual, not that it's fear and love that are sichlim. Sichlim means intellectual, but not that they're intellectual. It means that it's born out from the intellect. Remember, that's the ultimate, that's the complete Beinani, is like that. That he has it in his mind, and his mind turns on his heart. His mind turns on his emotions in such an incredible way. So then what happens? So what happens then is that the mitzvah is able to be lifted up all the way to where? All the way up to the world of Bria. The incredible high spiritual world. That's amazing. But what about little old me? I can't do that. I don't have that same makeup. Maybe my soul is not coming from that level, or for whatever reason, but I'm trying my best. In this, Hashem says, God says what? He says that I'm going to connect that energy, that even though the energy that's coming from just my tvuna, from my brain emotion, is not enough rocket fuel to make it all the way up to Bria, I'm going to make it go up to Bria. That's the chiddush. That's the excitement. That's the thing. So if the point is really, if you come back to it, what's the goal of being here? If the goal of being here is what? If the goal of being here is that I want to feel the excitement, so then okay, then we're talking apples and oranges. But if the goal of being down here in this world is to accomplish, to change the world, to lift up the mitzvahs all the way up to the highest realms, so then it doesn't really matter if I feel it or not. It's as long as I put in the effort. If I put in myself into it, so then it's going to go all the way up to the highest worlds, because God's going to see that he's going to connect my effort to this mitzvah. And then he'll enclose that mitzvah with rocket fuel that'll cause it to fly all the way up to the highest worlds. That's the excitement. That's where it's at. That's why this is such an important point that we have to learn in Tanya. Because exactly this issue, that rocket fuel, right, that I can't create, Hashem is creating for me. So when I do something good, and I put a motivation behind it, as much as I try, I can't arouse my emotions completely. But at least I can get it into my mind to do the right thing. God's going to lift it up to the highest levels. And that's really the goal of what we're doing down here in this world. It's in order that I should be able to lift up the world to the highest place. And that Hashem does for me when he sees I put in the effort. And that's what he says. But without this, however, without that, it would just really go up to the world of Yetzirah, right? The next world. But because Hashem sees the effort that I'm putting in, when I do put in the effort, so then he causes it to happen. He invests himself, and he is the one that is going to join my machshava tova, my good thought, my good intention, right, that I put my effort into, to this particular good deed, this particular good thing that I'm doing to lift up all the way to the highest worlds. Okay? Okay, so that's it for chapter 16. Emir Hashem, we'll continue next time.